Time on the programme for you now to have a look at the day's business news. We're going to start today with the latest bumper results from Disney. Our business editor, Stephen Carroll, is joining us here on set with a lot more. Stephen.
Stuart, the entertainment giant's revenues bouncing back to pre-pandemic levels as visitors return to theme parks and continue to sign up to its streaming service Disney+. Revenues for the last 3 months of 2021 jumped by over a third to almost $22 billion. Now, the theme parks business saw the biggest turnaround, with takings more than doubling compared to the same period last year. But despite fears that Disney Plus's growth would slow down, new additions like the Beatles documentary Get Back helped to boost numbers there too. The streaming service added almost 12 million subscribers over that 3-month period, bringing it to a total of almost 130 million. Compare that to the giant of this sector, Netflix, which has just over 220 million subscribers. But that company had warned that its growth would slow down substantially this year in its latest results. Disney, meanwhile, expecting strong growth to happen in the next couple of years. It's aiming to hit between 230 and 260 million subscribers by 2024. Moving on, the lender Credit Suisse reported a massive loss of 2 billion Swiss francs or 1.9 billion euros for the last 3 months of 2021. The bank's earnings hit by the fallout from 2 major scandals in the financial industry, the collapse of Greensill and the implosion of the investment fund Archegos. On top of that, Credit Suisse saw a slowdown in its trading and wealth management businesses. Well, there's lots of companies giving their reports today, which will give investors plenty to chew over. There was some better news for the French bank Société Générale, whose annual profits hit a record high for 2021 of 5.6 billion euros. Now, shares in Soc Gen are up almost 3% at the start of trading in Paris. Overall, CAC 40 up by a third of 1%, gains 2 in London and in Frankfurt. Credit Suisse shares, though, down 3% in Zurich. In Asia, Japanese shares seeing some gains boosted by the technology sector there. The Nikkei in Tokyo finishing the day up by 0.4%. Small gains elsewhere in Asia too. Now, the French oil and gas company Total Energy has reported net profits of $16 billion for 2021, boosted by higher oil prices. The company is going to raise its dividends by 5% as a result. On Wednesday, its CEO had announced a rebate of €100 for French natural gas customers on low incomes, as well as a cut to petrol prices in isolated rural areas. Total is also planning to invest $3.5 billion in renewable energy this year, installing an extra 6 gigawatts of generating capacity. Well, as the cost of energy has risen sharply, President Macron is set to announce his plans for France's nuclear power sector later. He'd promised to cut the use of nuclear to 50% of electricity generation, but the skyrocketing cost of natural gas has prompted a push to revive the role of nuclear. It's also become a major election issue here in France, as Nicholas Rushworth now reports.
The closure of the Fessenheim nuclear power plant in northeastern France was one of Emmanuel Macron's campaign promises 5 years ago when he ran for office. It was shut down and is a symbol of what he saw as the reduced role nuclear power should play in France.
There just remains the closure of 12 reactors between 2025 and 2035.
That is a sharp contrast to the approach he wants now, which is to build new nuclear reactors, such as the one in Flamanville in Normandy, which should be operational next year after budget overruns and more than a decade of delays. The French government says its goal of reducing dependency on nuclear power from 70% to 50% by 2035 remains in place. There are currently 56 nuclear power plants in France. However, 12 of them are currently closed for maintenance or due to technical issues. Nuclear-generated energy this year is forecast to be at its lowest level in 30 years. Reports suggest that the government is planning now to build 6 new-generation EPR pressurized water reactors by 2045, with an option to build 8 more by 2050. The goal would be to extend the lifespan of the current plants at the same time as beefing up renewable energy sources. Energy policy has come centre stage in the current election campaign, with the left largely opposed and all the right-wing candidates pro-nuclear.
Nuclear power is the most carbon-free, la plus décarbonée, la plus propre, la plus sûre.
Nuclear energy raises problems. The French should not forget that they include problems surrounding uranium extraction and safety. We saw what happened in Japan a few years ago.
The measures Macron announces on Thursday will not be voted on in the short term. His policy announcements are being seen by some as electioneering.
Finally, for me, the recent plunge in shares of Facebook's owner Meta could actually help it to avoid new competition rules in the United States. On Tuesday, the value of Meta dipped below $600 billion. Now, that's an important figure because it's the threshold being considered by Congress for a package of competition bills targeting big tech. So if the social media's market value stayed below that level, it could potentially escape those new rules, which would change things like how it does business and the rules around buying up other companies. Now, those measures are still some way away from being approved, but it means that it is worth keeping an eye on Meta's financial fortunes too, Stuart.
Which Stephen always does for us, of course. Thank you very much. Stephen Carroll with The Business on France 24.